everyone! I was working last week at my local natural history museum, organizing and cataloging their fossil collection, and I got to talking with another of the paleontologists there about money management and the absolute lack of classes taught on it throughout the 20 years of school that kids are forced to go through. I'm planning on taking my younger brother to Gen Con this year, and I've only been able to save up enough money to go for maybe 1 or 2 days. But it'll be our first attempt at one of these mega conventions, so that's okay. The point is, it does bring up the topic of saving up for the occasional controlled indulgence like this. We're going to talk about a strategy in money management itself. Resource management, really. As it is applicable to other types of resources, particularly natural resources. Throughout numerous conversations and contemplations that I've had, both alone and with others about this, I came up with a starting point. The rule of net resources. And actually, well, I thought of the name last. It was tricky to pick one. It goes like this. You want to maintain, in whatever resource it is you're talking about, be it money, water, grains, trees, fruit, again, really good for natural resources as well, to produce and preserve at least a net zero, and for stability, some measure of net positive. If you happen to be not familiar with what I mean by net, net is what is left over when you subtract what you take out, or use from what you produce or put in. A quick example. Say that as a teenager, you find an entry-level job that pays you $8 an hour, and you want to go to the movies, and you have other small expenses as well. Okay. Well, movie tickets, on average, cost around $9 to $10 these days. Just 2 hours of work one day, and you've got enough money to go, right? Well, not quite. You have to take into account what else you're going to need to spend money on, either that day or week or both. You have to take into account whether you need to buy a ticket for someone else. Speaking of which, any girls who are listening, don't make your boyfriend pay for your ticket. At least not every time. You can't make him double his expenses, which means he has to double the work he's already doing just to go out with you and then claim you're an equal partner. That logically and mathematically makes no sense at all, unless you're bringing something else of equal value to the money he brings into the relationship. That would be the only way it could work. And even then, you'd both have to agree that your separate contributions are of equal value. So, adding up all the money you're able to earn in a week, in this example, then subtract all of your combined expenses within that same time frame, said week. What you're left with is the net amount. If that number is 0, then at least you're maintaining your lifestyle. You're not falling into debt. Not yet, anyway. It's a thin edge to be walking on, but you're not in trouble yet. Now, if that number is negative, you are in trouble. That is not sustainable, and you need to do something. Now, this happens to everyone on small scales and small time frames. And to deal with that, you need to either lower your expenses, or you need to reach for a better paying job. You need to have a plan to return the money that you've lost, either pay it back or earn it again. Maybe learning to live with a somewhat lower quality lifestyle than you want for the time being. So many people get into terrible, crushing debt all throughout their lives because they don't understand this. And colleges asking for tens of thousands of dollars while preparing millions of young people for almost nothing but more school is not helping, to put it nicely. It delays adulthood. And for all people's school systems, parents, all people's talk of the virtue of personal responsibility, national leaders, all the talk of personal responsibility, no one is teaching it to young people, much less giving them real practice of it. No one really learns by just listening or hearing someone talk. You have to actually go and do the skill, and do the practice you want to be skilled at. It is exceedingly difficult to have to learn it yourself when you're 25, 30, 35-year-old adult, and you've had when you have had almost no real build-up to it. So this talk, which I'm also writing and doing to organize my own process of learning to manage money, is about building these skills up oneself. So if you went to my Teach Smarter, Not Stricter videos, I go into a little bit of this and how schools fail. Well, I go into a lot of that. Let's go back to the conversation that took place in the Fossil Collection Dungeons, where you can find some pretty awesome prehistoric creatures, some of which very similar to dragons. About the lack of money management classes in schools. We were recalling that the only class that even touched the subject was in about 2nd or 3rd grade, for other people, maybe give or take a grade, where the teachers would have us count up paper coins, learn addition and subtraction. That way, figure out what a few common things cost, like a book or a pound of apples or a candy bar, if even that. Well, that's fine for a child at the age of 7 or 8, but not only does that not even scratch the surface of what adult finances look like, which a 7 or 8-year-old wouldn't need, but there's no follow-up to these kinds of lessons. They're not continued, they're not escalated throughout the years. And there's very little build-up past that. If you did have classes beyond that, that talked about budgeting or money management past that level, you had better than most. That's still pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic that that's usually as far as it goes in education. Now, we went over what net means in terms of resources, mostly using money as an example, but now let's consider water. Las Vegas, Nevada, located in the Mojave Desert, one of the hottest, driest places in North America. Yet one of the most water-demanding places as well. The entertainment capital of the world and America's playground, as it is called. Although, to be honest, I prefer an average good quality playground in the park above that resource black hole any day. You want to do your business in the Strip, fine, but I'm not touching that. Does anyone see a problem here? Besides my language? Las Vegas' water supply comes from primarily the Colorado River. I think as much as 90%. Which the Colorado River, Lake Mead. Lake Mead is a reservoir of, well, Colorado River feeds into Lake Mead. Continuing to shrink due to periodic droughts and ever-increasing water demands. So, it's a place very high in evaporation, with massive water demands, and it's trying to supply water to not just one, but at least 3 states: Arizona, Nevada, and California, the latter 2 having many high water demand resort areas. And yeah, California does have some water reservoirs of its own, but it's still in many regions an arid state, and has plenty of shortages already, because as we all know, you can't drink water from the Pacific Ocean or any saltwater body, and removing salt from seawater or any kind of saltwater on any significant population sustaining scale is not yet anywhere close to efficient enough to be a reliable solution. You will only ever get a net negative in water supply in arid, high evaporation, high water demand places, unless the people in charge are extremely smart about water management. And we all know the likelihood of that. Plus, even if they were, sustaining a net zero balance, let alone any kind of net positive, meaning the city-state or the population, whatever area or population scale you're talking about, only ever draws as much water from the reservoirs as is replenished each year, may prove to be simply not possible. It's a reality that people have had to deal with since our earliest days. If you don't learn to manage resources well, eventually they dry up. So here's the first rule of resource management, and is an essential rule to master first. The rule of net resources. In whatever you're trying to manage, if you can replenish the same amount as what you take out, a net zero, you're at least not losing. If you can reach a point where you are able to save or replenish more of the resource than you take out, a net positive, you're doing well for the time being, and you have room to save, to expand, and to experiment a little. If you're taking out or using up more than you can put back, or more than is replenished, a net negative, it's probably time to try a different strategy.